Alright, it's great to be here. My name is Schipper, and I'm going to be talking to you about my experience with autism. When I was 3 years old, I attended preschool at St. Thomas More. My behavior issues were very noticeable since the first day. I continued to go there until kindergarten when I need to have my spleen removed. So, due to spherocytosis, it's a rare blood disorder. I went to Ferber to continue out kindergarten, and I was tested for ADHD and I tested positive. This was when I was 5 years old. Two behavior modification tools were put in place, but they didn't work. They were the token reward program and 1, 2, 3 magic. My parents tried to help me sleep with guided meditation, but that didn't work either. There's me after I got my spleen removed, and there's me as a very young child. The ADHD medication I was on only made my behavior worse. Through this, though, I learned a good rule of thumb. If you're under a table screaming, "I'm going insane," the medication is not working. My parents thankfully saw this as a sign to take me off of Adderall. When I was prescribed with another stimulant, it had the same response, so I just quit stimulants altogether. My psychiatrist suspected PDD-NOS, partially based on my reaction to the drugs I was given. First grade. My parents thought Montessori might be a better fit for me in first grade, so I got transferred to a different school. This school, however, turned out to be one of the worst fits possible for me at the time. I was terrible with organization. I still struggle with it today, but at this school, it was in first grade, and they had a due date for every single assignment. It was always like further out, a couple days later, and I had a very hard time managing my time, so I eventually just threw in the towel and started playing with counting beads, turning them into stick figures. My behavior grew worse and worse. I was making noises in class, getting into fights at recess, and I went through some neuropsychological testing because my parents suspected that I didn't have ADHD or I had something else, and it was confirmed that I had Asperger's syndrome and general anxiety disorder. There's a toy I built when I was a kid, and there's me and my family when I was in first grade. Second grade. My parents set up an IEP meeting for me in second grade. I was given other health impairment and was allowed sensory breaks when I needed them during the day. I also started to go to online school half-time, and I was still having trouble at Montessori, so eventually I just went to the online school full-time. I improved tremendously in academics, and my anxiety went down a lot. And by third grade, I was ready to be with other kids again. There's me with my brother, and there's a project I made when I was a kid. The medications and therapy I went through in second grade to help me get better were occupational therapy after I was diagnosed with many different sensory integration dysfunctions, including auditory integration dysfunction. I started social coaching with Dr. Casey Hansen and at home. I still had trouble sleeping, and melatonin gave me nightmares, so I was prescribed guanfacine. I was also prescribed Strattera for attention and impulsivity. Alright, third through fifth grade. In third grade, I started at Odyssey, a charter school for the highly gifted. My behaviors continued to improve throughout my time there. I started doing jiu-jitsu, which is a martial art. It really helped my self-control, and my IEP was reinstated. It focused mostly on social speech and organization, though. I also got to play football, which was fun because I like to tackle people. There's me with my jiu-jitsu coach. There's me in my football uniform, and there's me with my friends in third grade, I think. Alright, sixth grade through present. By sixth grade, it had been a couple years since I had any behavioral trouble. I graduated from occupational therapy and started agility training to improve my core strength and coordination for grappling and football. I went back to Ferber because I couldn't continue with the accelerated program at Odyssey. I have a low processing speed, so it was sort of hard to keep up with it. But when I went back to Ferber, I loved it, and I had a high IEP for social speech until my year at junior high, my first year. Current medications and treatment. By 6th grade, my psychiatrist took me off of guanfacine and Strattera because I was doing so well. Now I only take melatonin for sleep. It stopped giving me nightmares. Yeah, that was when I was a kid. But I still see Dr. Hansen, but that's only just for checkups, basically. There's me with my family. There's me with my brother after his baseball game. There's me in my football uniform. There's me in my 7th grade graduation. And there's me playing guitar. My quirks. When I was a child, I didn't look people in the eye when I used to talk to them. I used to flap my hands when I was excited or nervous, and I saw smiling as a sign of hostility. One example is how I would freak out and get really mad at my older brother Joey when he would smile at me. I see bad guys in movies and they're smiling like this, so I'm like, hey, you're doing that too. You must be a bad guy. I took quickly to jiu-jitsu and football, and during the first years I could not do one sit-up, but I could still play football normally. Quirks that are still with me. When I'm anxious, I tend to laugh. I pace when I talk or if I'm in deep thought. I squat when I sit if I feel really relaxed in my setting. And I hate being tapped lightly on the arm, though I like to tap at people. Things I think people should know about autism. Oh yeah, these are my quirks now. There is me guarding my Doritos Locos top. Alright, things I think people should know about autism. Autism affects everyone differently. I know many people who have autism, and they couldn't be any more different. Some are antisocial, and some are very social people. Some hate loud noises, and some are drawn to loud noises. Some are nonverbal, and some have limited interests. But autism can have benefits too. If I really like to do something, I can do it tirelessly for 8 hours and have it seem like 15 minutes. I have trouble falling asleep, but since my brain is still 110% at 11:30, I remember stuff I forgot to do that day, so I can just quickly get it done. As a kid, I have very high anxiety, but whenever I was given a test, I could do it without having any anxiety. I'm not caught up in social drama and stuff, so that's good. Things that affect me. Things that do not affect me. Artificial food coloring does not make my autism more severe. Neither does sugar and caffeine, as long as I don't have it right before I go to bed. And my parents have never noticed a difference in my behavior after I've had a vaccine. Some things that bring out my negative symptoms. Transitions have always been a problem for me. It's always. Unstructured school settings, I really didn't like it in first grade because it didn't have enough structure for me. We had 3-hour periods to do whatever work they assigned us, and I just couldn't do it. Bad sleep, or under 7 hours of sleep, is pretty bad. Weird stores. If they smell weird, too dark, too busy, I don't really like to go in. And directions that are unclear and stuff, and I really don't like those either. What's worked for me? Getting the correct diagnosis and being told about it. When I was told that I had autism, I'm just like, okay, cool, now I know what I need to work on. And not being over-medicated. Yeah, too much medication is bad. Good sleep is good. That always helps me. Exercise. And whenever I'm stressed out, I usually go for a walk around the block. That's really helped me. And occupational therapy really helped me as a kid when I was dealing with my sensory integration dysfunctions. And social coaching at home is really key, because home is where you're just supposed to be able to relax. And humor. Learning through humor. I remember when I was a kid, I saw a SpongeBob episode, and Patrick had chocolate smeared all over his face and his belly was bulging. And he's like, SpongeBob, you ate my chocolate bar, now I'm going to starve. And I didn't see why that was funny when I was a kid, so my parents explained to me that Patrick obviously ate his own chocolate bar and was falsely accusing SpongeBob. So now I think that that's pretty funny. Another thing, Seinfeld. I remember one time, this was a little bit more recently, George was talking to Elaine's dad. Elaine's dad wrote this book, so he's like, oh, you did a good job writing that book. And then he's like, nah, it was dribbled, it was pretty bad, and it wasn't that great. And then George was like, yeah, I guess you're right. So, yeah, I learned that, he was just trying to be modest, so, yeah, don't do that. Christmas vacation. Cousin Eddie showed up at the Griswold's house and with his whole family without telling them and planned to stay there for a couple of months. I didn't see what was wrong with that when I was a kid, but now I see that that's something that you should not do. And then my parents remember me saying this when I saw The Big Bang Theory, and Sheldon Cooper, like when I saw him like talking on the screen, so I'm like, hey, he's sort of like me without social coaching. How I am not. I'm involved in many sports. I'm very social. In first and second grade, I only had one friend who I didn't see very often. I didn't even really like to have friends back then because I'm like, hey, he's playing with my toys. I don't want him to play with my toys. They're mine. In sixth grade, I switched schools again and immediately made friends. I don't see smiling as threatening anymore, so don't be afraid, you can smile. I haven't gotten a write-up for bad behavior in almost 5 years. I get along great with my brother, and I can do 30 sit-ups at a time now, and before I couldn't even do one. And today I'm just very happy. So any questions?